And it was like coriander seed, white, and the taste of it was like wafers made with honey. Now, I've got a jar of the coriander seed. And y'all can pass that around, if you would, down through the tables. And as you get to the back, pass it down the other side. You can kind of take a look at the size of a coriander seed. So we find in question number 10, the bread that God rained down from heaven was like coriander seed, and what color was it? White in color. Now, the seed is a 3/16 of an inch in diameter. You can see the scale up there. I took, and when I went to a hobby shop, and I got some beads the same size, same diameter, and I took those and put them in the grass. I took a picture of that as if they were just sparsely put out on the ground, and you'd see what was involved in it. That's not the way it happened, though. Though it was up on the grass, but not like that. But just so you could get an idea of what was involved with that. And I'm going to pass some of these around, and you can take a look at this, about the size of what manna would look like. I want to pass that on down there. This is the shape of what we'll see later on of what manna would look like.
That's coriander.
If y'all pass those around down to the table so others can see them. Most people thought they were wafers. But we're going to see that they're not wafers in just a few moments. First, they're round. Of course, the wafer is round. But as we go further into our study, they got some on that side. Y'all pass them on down around so the other tables can have some. The manna was like a coriander seed, and the color thereof was the color of dilim, or beldam, however you want to pronounce that. This is in Numbers 11:7. And so in question number 11, the bread that God rained down from heaven was as the color of whatever, however you pronounce that. I think Jerry would call it a hard word.
That's it.
All right, let me give you the Webster's New College Dictionary. It defines vellum as a gum or resonance. It's a precious stone or pearl.
Can you even know what sweet gum is? Sweet gum exudes a gum that you could chew. The sweet is just exactly like that, and that's what bdellium is.
And so these little beads that you have seen in the jars, they would be sticky and round and not flat. They're like a little pearl or so that you just see there, and would be in abundance on that, and this would be about 2 or 3 feet deep, and some places more. So that as you walked on it, at the under feet, you could scoop it up and get what you need on that. Now, I put some of that in the grass like I told you, showed you that picture, and picked some out. I've still got some with dirt and grass leaves in there. That'd be a bad thing if you had to pick it up that way. They'd be eating a lot of dirt, but I think as kids we did that anyway, but when we got older we kind of frowned upon it. But nevertheless, out this way, just like when you have a snow or anything else, you go out and gather some of the snow to make ice cream. And you don't have to worry about it getting dirty or whatever. The same thing with the manna that would be involved with this. It would be in great abundance. You've got to remember now you're going to feed over 4 or 5 million people. just can't have a little small patch here and there. It's everywhere for them to gather and to be able to gather what they need. Now we find in Exodus 16:15, and when the children of Israel saw it, they said one to another, "It is manna," for they wist not what it was. And Moses said to them, "This is the bread which the Lord hath given you to eat." And so we find in question number 12, when the people saw the bread that God rained down from heaven, they called it manna, which is in the Hebrew language means, what is it? They didn't understand it. They didn't want to give it a name. They just said, what is it? And let it go at that. They did this not for 1 week or 1 year, but 40 years. Day after day, week after week, month after month. Think about that. 40 years. Now, in Exodus chapter 16, verse 21, and they gathered it every morning, every man according to his eating, and when the sun waxed hot, it melted. Think about that. So question number 13, they were to gather the manna for 6 days every morning. What happened to the 7th day? Oh, the 7th day was the Sabbath. They couldn't work. On Friday, they gathered up on Friday for Saturday. Saturday is the Sabbath. Not Sunday. We should get her straightened out. No, that's all right. All right, now, so they were gathered every morning. Now, would the manna melt when the sun got hot? Yes. Now, get the picture. Every morning, the dew had to fall. The manna was on the dew. When the sun came up, it melted. So, well, I don't want to get up in the morning. I'll get up in the afternoon and gather it. Well, you miss it. And if you didn't get up and get it, you didn't eat. So if you wanted to eat, you had to gather the manna. And there was a certain amount that you would gather in that. And so in Exodus 16:35, and the children of Israel did eat manna 40 years until they came into a land inhabited. They did eat manna until they came into the borders of the land of Canaan. And so now we're not talking about a month experience or a few days in this. The children of Israel would eat the manna for 40 long years. That's all they had to eat was manna. Outside of some quail that God had given them from time to time, but their main substance was manna. I was involved in this. Now, as we go a little bit further, in Exodus 16:16, and this is the thing which the Lord had commanded, gather it of every man according to his eating, an omer for every man according to the number of your persons. Take ye every man for them which are in his tent. So they were to gather enough for each person, and that was to be an omer, and we'll take a look at that. They were to gather an omer of manna for each person. This is 3 quarts. So they could gather 3 quarts of the manna. Now some of them could say, well, I've got 10 people in my tent, I'm going to get me. It wouldn't work. They had to gather exactly the amount for each person that they had. If a person couldn't go out because of health or one other reasons, then they could do that. Otherwise, they were to go out and to do this. Now, we find in Exodus 16:20, notwithstanding, they hearkened not unto Moses, but some of them left it until the morning, and it bred worms and stank, and Moses was wroth with them. Now, we find in question number 17, if they kept any man over for the next day except the Sabbath, it would have worms in it, and it would stink. about this. You don't have any food in the house. Cupboards are bare. You don't have anything to eat. You can't go down to the supermarket and get anything. You're out there. You gather the manna for that day. You're going to have enough for you to eat that day only. If you decide, well, I don't know about tomorrow. It's storming. It might be storming tonight. And the dew's not going to be in the morning. We might not get any manna, so I'll keep some over. Some people said, I just don't want to get up every morning. I'll gather enough here to last me for 2 or 3 days. In the morning, what was left over, if you kept it, worms would come into it and it would stink. Now this manna did not grow on a tree. It did not come from a plant. It came down from heaven every morning for 6 days of every week and of every year for 40 years on that. And so they could not prepare or have enough for the next day. They had to depend on God every night that God would provide manna the next morning. There was no way they could do that. And if they did, if they cheated on it, they had a problem with it involved in that. So now we come to look at it again on that in Exodus chapter 16, verse 22. And it came to pass that on the 6th day they gathered twice as much bread, 2 omers for one man, and all the rulers of the congregation came and told Moses. Now they were permitted to do so. Some of them didn't understand this. But on the 6th day, when they gathered enough for the 7th day, it did not stink and it did not have any worms in it. Every week, the manna knew what day was Friday. Man might forget it, but God didn't. That's an amazing thing. Think about that. And where that they would gather enough for the Sabbath. Then, if they tried to do that on Monday and gather twice as much, it would stink the next day and be full of worms. I wondered about those worms since it didn't come from heaven. I mean, the manna didn't come from a tree or from the ground. Where did the worms come from? In that, but nevertheless, in a matter of a few hours, the worms would be there, involved in them. They could not store it. They did not have refrigerators. They could not gather the manna in the quarts and leave it sitting there. When the sun came up, what manna was in the field melted. When they got the manna, they had to do something with it right then. And so, as we look at this, for this next question, we need to finish that at 18. Could they gather enough for 2 days on the 6th day? Yes. Now, in Numbers chapter 11 and verse 8, and the people went about and gathered it and ground it in mills, or beat it in a mortar and baked it in pans and made cakes of it, and the taste of it was as the taste of fresh oil. So immediately they had to make bread with it, or cakes with it. But they had to eat it all that night. If they left it for the next day, worms, and it would stink. So you could not have anything for the next day. Every day you had to depend on this until you came to the 6th day on Friday. Then you could have enough for Saturday, the Sabbath. Then you'd back to each day involved in that. So this was a day-by-day event that happened there. So let's look at question number 19. They would grind it and beat it and bake it in pans and make cake of it. Now in Deuteronomy chapter 8 and verse 2, thou shalt remember all the way which the Lord thy God led thee these 40 years in the wilderness, to humble thee, to prove thee, to know what was in thine heart, and whether thou wouldest keep his commandments or no. Now God knew what they would do, but he wanted them to know what they would do. Are you realizing what you're doing in your life right now? We go through motions and don't even realize what we do. We do things and don't even give a second thought about what we're doing. We say words to people and don't